All right, let's get ready for a deep dive today into some serious brain food.
Yeah, buckle up.
We are tackling Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics,
Mm,
his guide to not just living,
right.
but living well.
Exactly. And it's a guide that's really stood the test of time.
Yeah.
I mean, even after over 2,000 years,
Wow.
Aristotle's insights into happiness, virtue, and what he calls eudaimonia
Right.
are still incredibly relevant.
Eudaimonia.
Yeah.
It's not your typical just like, surface level happiness, is it?
No, not at all.
I feel like there's some real depth to that word.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Think of it as a state of flourishing,
Okay.
of truly thriving over the course of your life. It's not about these fleeting moments of joy. It's about living in a way that allows your best self to kind of emerge.
Okay, so how do we get there? Does
Yeah.
Aristotle give us like a step-by-step plan or?
He doesn't give us a map,
Okay.
but he does offer like a compass, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
His ethical framework is all about cultivating virtue. And it starts with a very simple yet profound idea.
Okay.
Every action we take is aimed at some good.
So like grabbing another cup of coffee, I'm aiming for the good of staying awake during this deep dive.
Exactly.
I think I got it.
You got it, but Aristotle obviously takes it way beyond that.
Right. Yeah.
He argues that there's a hierarchy of goods ultimately leading to what he calls the highest good.
Right.
And that's eudaimonia. It's
Yeah.
the ultimate goal,
Right.
the thing that really gives our lives meaning and purpose.
So how do we like align our actions with this whole highest good idea? Is it just a matter of like knowing what the right thing to do is in every situation, or is it something more?
Yeah, it's not just about knowing. It's about being. Aristotle believed that virtue is something that we develop through practice, through habitually choosing those actions that lead us closer to that ideal of eudaimonia.
Oh, okay. So we talk about like a moral to-do list, like do this, don't do that. It's kind of like that.
Not exactly. This is where his very famous concept of the golden mean comes into play.
Okay. Tell me more about that.
So for Aristotle, virtue is all about finding a balance between two extremes,
Okay.
excess and deficiency.
So let me guess. It's like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, right? Not too hot, not too cold, but just right.
Perfect analogy.
Okay.
So take courage, for example.
Right.
The golden mean would be that sweet spot between cowardice, which is a deficiency of courage, and recklessness,
Right.
which is an excess.
Okay. So bravery is not about like, just blindly rushing into danger.
Yeah.
It's about, kind of assessing the risk and acting with that balanced and appropriate level of courage.
Exactly.
Okay. That makes sense. What are some other examples of this golden mean in action?
Well, think about generosity.
I don't know.
A truly generous person, they aren't stingy,
Right.
but they're also not just like throwing money around carelessly.
Mhm.
So they find that balance between those two extremes,
Yeah.
or honesty, The golden mean would be being truthful. So,
Without being brutally blunt or, on the other hand, always sugarcoating things.
yeah. No, this is starting to feel really practical.
It is.
Like he's giving us this framework for making better choices, not just in like the big life-altering decisions, but also just in our everyday like interactions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Aristotle believed that cultivating virtue is something we do in every aspect of our lives, in our relationships, in our work, our leisure activities, all of it.
So it's not about like being morally perfect. It's about this striving to make the choices
Right.
that kind of lead us closer to that ideal of living well, almost like building those good habits you were talking about.
You got it.
Yeah.
He saw it as a lifelong process of learning and practicing and refining our character.
Right.
And he truly believed that the more we strive towards virtue, the closer we get to experiencing true fulfillment, to achieving eudaimonia.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Good.
Okay, well, let's take a quick break and we'll come back and keep unpacking this because I have a lot more questions. Sounds good.
All right, we'll be right back after this. So this idea of building habits toward virtue,
Right.
it makes me wonder about those moments when we're kind of like totally off track.
Yeah.
Like, those times when we give into excess or we just fall short. Does Aristotle address that at all?
He does, and he really emphasizes that it's all part of the process. Remember, this isn't about achieving some kind of moral perfection.
Right.
It's about striving.
Yeah.
It's about making progress and learning from our missteps along the way.
So it's like we're constantly course correcting.
Exactly.
So we notice we've gone too far in one direction. We pull back to the mean, and we just use those experiences to kind of make better choices next time.
Exactly. He even uses the analogy of like an archer aiming at a target.
Okay.
You might not hit the bullseye every time, but you kind of adjust your aim
Right.
based on where your arrows land. It's the same with virtue. We observe our actions, we reflect on their consequences, and we make adjustments as we go.
Okay, that's reassuring. It makes this whole idea of cultivating virtue feel a lot more attainable.
Right.
But let me throw kind of a curveball at you.
Sure.
What about all those external factors?
Yeah.
Things like luck, circumstances, maybe even genetics.
Yeah.
Does Aristotle just ignore all that stuff?
He doesn't ignore them,
Okay.
but he really places the emphasis on what we can control,
Okay.
our own choices, our own actions. He does acknowledge that those external factors definitely play a role,
Uh-huh.
but he believed that our character, our virtues, have the biggest impact on our well-being and our ability to flourish.
So even if life throws us, some really tough challenges,
Yeah.
having cultivated those virtues can help us navigate those a lot better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Precisely. Just imagine two people facing the same difficult situation.
Okay.
One who has cultivated the virtue of courage, let's say,
Yeah.
and one who hasn't. The person with courage is much more likely to face that challenge head on, to persevere, and potentially even find growth in the experience.
Yeah. So it's like those virtues become our inner armor in a way,
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
equipping us to kind of deal with whatever life throws our way.
Absolutely. And that actually highlights another key aspect of Aristotle's ethics,
Right.
the role of reason.
So it's not enough to just kind of like blindly follow the golden mean.
Right.
We have to actually engage our minds and critically think about what the virtuous choice would be in a specific situation.
Exactly.
Okay.
He calls this practical wisdom, or phronesis.
Rhodesis.
Yeah, it's this idea of using our reason to discern the right course of action in any given circumstance. It's about understanding the nuances of a situation and making choices that align with our values and our ultimate goal of eudaimonia.
That's reminding me of something you mentioned before about how Aristotle saw ethics and politics as kind of inseparable.
Right.
What did you mean by that?
Well, for Aristotle, living the good life wasn't just this individual pursuit.
Okay.
He believed it was something that we cultivate within a community. He saw humans as these fundamentally social creatures that thrive when they're connected to others.
So like being a good citizen
Yeah.
is actually part of living that virtuous life.
Exactly. He believed that we have a responsibility to contribute to the well-being of our communities,
Okay.
to participate in civic life,
Yeah.
and to work towards creating a society that supports the flourishing of all of its members.
This is blowing my mind a little bit.
It's pretty cool.
It's not just about me and my own individual choices.
Right.
It's about the kind of world we're creating together.
Exactly. That's the beauty of Aristotle's thought.
Yeah.
He connects our personal growth and our ethical development
Right. Yeah.
to the larger context of our social and political lives. He really believed that a just and virtuous society provides the best environment for individuals to achieve eudaimonia.
So he's not just giving us this framework for personal growth.
Right.
He's laying out a vision for a truly, truly good society.
Yes.
A society where everyone has the opportunity to flourish.
Precisely. And that vision is just as relevant today
Yeah.
as it was in ancient Greece. We're still grappling with these same questions
Totally.
of how to create a just and equitable society, how to balance individual freedom
Right.
with the needs of the community,
Yeah.
how to foster a sense of shared responsibility, all of those things.
Yeah, no, this deep dive is really making me think about my own role in all of this,
That's great.
about how my choices, both big and small, kind of contribute to the world that I want to live in.
That's the power of philosophy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It challenges us to examine our assumptions, to broaden our perspectives,
Right.
and to think deeply about how we want to live our lives.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground.
Yes.
Virtue, the golden mean, practical wisdom, the role of community.
Yeah.
But there's one piece of Aristotle's ethical puzzle that we haven't really touched on yet.
Okay.
And it's something that he considered to be the highest form of human activity. Contemplation.
Ah, yes.
What's that all about?
So for Aristotle, it was all about engaging with knowledge and truth. It was about using our reason to try to understand the world around us and our place within it.
So we're not talking about just zoning out on the couch.
No, not quite.
This is about actively using our minds,
Yeah.
exploring ideas, and seeking a deeper understanding of things.
Exactly. He believed that contemplation was absolutely essential for achieving true eudaimonia.
Okay.
He saw it as a way of connecting with something larger than ourselves
Uh-huh.
and experiencing a kind of intellectual joy and fulfillment that went beyond just our everyday experience.
Okay, this is making me want to dust off some of those philosophy books
Right.
I've been meaning to read.
Yes.
But realistically, how do we fit contemplation into our busy modern lives?
Right.
I mean, it's not like most of us have like hours each day to just sit around and ponder the mysteries of the universe.
Right. Finding time for contemplation can definitely be a challenge. But Aristotle believed that even small moments of reflection, of just quiet contemplation, could be incredibly beneficial.
So it's not necessarily about the quantity of time, but like the quality of our attention.
Precisely.
Okay.
It could be as simple as taking a few minutes each day to just disconnect from all the noise and distractions,
Yeah.
to simply sit and think, to observe the world around us,
Yeah.
to maybe engage with a piece of art or literature that inspires us.
So finding those little pockets of time to just be present, to engage our minds, and to kind of connect with something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah,
That feels doable, even in the midst of our busy lives.
it is. And remember, even seemingly mundane activities can actually be opportunities for contemplation.
Okay.
Aristotle believed we could find intellectual stimulation in almost anything
Right.
if we approach it with a curious and open mind.
So even something like taking a walk in nature or
Yeah.
having a conversation with a friend could be a form of contemplation
Absolutely.
if we're truly present and engaged in the moment.
It's all about cultivating a mindset of curiosity and wonder, of seeking meaning and understanding in every aspect of our lives.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together.
Yeah.
The virtues, the golden mean, practical wisdom, community, and now contemplation.
It's all connected.
It's like Aristotle is painting this picture of a truly rich and fulfilling life.
Yeah.
A life that really engages all of our faculties,
Right.
our minds, our hearts, and our connection to the world around us.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And it's a life that is attainable for all of us. Even if we don't reach some kind of perfect ideal,
Oh,
it's about the journey.
yeah.
It's about striving,
Yeah.
the continual effort to become better versions of ourselves.
This has been an incredibly eye-opening deep dive.
Good. I'm glad.
I feel like I have a whole new framework for thinking about what it means to actually live a good life.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Okay, so I have to admit I was a little intimidated by Aristotle at first.
Yeah, he can be a little dense.
But you've really brought his ideas to life in a way that feels, relevant and even inspiring.
Well, that's the thing about philosophy, right? It's not meant to be locked away in those dusty old books.
Right.
It's about grappling with those big questions about how to live a good life.
Yeah.
And those questions are just as relevant today as they were back then.
Speaking of today,
Yeah.
one thing I've been wondering about is how Aristotle's ideas really apply to our modern world, especially with all the technology and the distractions and everything.
Right.
Do you think eudaimonia is even achievable in the 21st century?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
It's one that a lot of people are asking.
Yeah.
And I think it's a valid one. We do live in a world that often prizes instant gratification,
Right?
superficiality, constant pursuit of external validation.
Yeah, it's like we're surrounded by these counterfeits of eudaimonia,
Yes.
the likes and the followers,
Exactly.
these fleeting moments of viral fame.
Yeah.
But deep down, I think most of us are yearning for something more substantial.
Absolutely. And I think that's where Aristotle's ideas can be incredibly valuable.
Okay.
He reminds us that true fulfillment doesn't come from chasing those external rewards,
Yeah.
but from cultivating inner excellence.
So instead of focusing on like what we can get,
Mm.
we should be focusing on who we can become.
Exactly. It's about shifting that focus
Right.
from the outcome to the process,
Right.
from achieving a certain status or acquiring possessions to really developing our character and living in accordance with virtue.
But how do we even begin to do that in a world that's constantly, bombarding us with messages that are the opposite of that?
It's definitely a challenge,
Yeah.
but I think that first step is just becoming aware of those messages
Okay.
and the influence they have on our sects and our behaviors.
Yeah.
Once we start to recognize those external pressures, then we can start to make more conscious choices about what truly matters to us.
So it's about cultivating that kind of like inner filter,
Yeah.
being more discerning about what we allow to influence us.
Exactly. And that's where those Aristotelian virtues really come into play.
Boy.
Things like self-control, temperance, practical wisdom.
Right.
They can help us navigate the complexities of modern life.
Yeah.
And make choices that align with our values.
Yeah, it sounds like it takes a lot of conscious effort.
It does.
A lot of mindfulness.
It does, but Aristotle really believed that this kind of mindful living,
Hmm.
this striving toward virtue, ultimately leads to greater happiness and fulfillment.
Okay.
He didn't see it as a burden, but as this path to living a truly good life.
After this deep dive, I'm feeling a renewed sense of hope.
Yeah.
Like maybe there is a way to find that balance, that eudaimonia,
I think so too.
even in the midst of all this chaos.
Yeah, and remember, it's not about achieving some kind of perfect state.
Right.
It's about the journey,
Yeah.
the continual process of learning and growing
Right.
and striving to be our best selves.
Well, I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about today, a lot to chew on.
I hope so.
Any final thoughts before we wrap up this deep dive?
Just this. Don't be afraid to engage with these ideas.
Yeah.
Aristotle might have lived centuries ago, but his insights into human nature and that pursuit of a good life, those are timeless.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, we'll leave you to ponder the wisdom of Aristotle.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and until next time, keep seeking knowledge and keep diving deep.